Welcome back into the Baptist Catholic Show. Today's episode is going to be a little on the light side.
Yeah, just kind of a reintroduction. Welcome in
to the show. All right, so without further ado,
here we go.
So, as we said in that awkward introduction, this is going to be a light episode. I thought what we'd do today is kind of do a brief pause and kind of reintroduce ourselves, get reacquainted with some maybe new followers that have tagged along here recently, and maybe tell us a little bit why, and there might be some new followers with us.
Oh, well, if you didn't know, we're super famous.
We will send you some free headshots in the mail autographed by us.
Free. Anyway.
Not free. Hey, we charge money. Sorry.
Anyway, we're
not
super...
$5 a headshot.
Hush. We're not super famous. We did have, the immense pleasure of being on the journey home on EWTN.
Which is, for those who are unaware, that's a Catholic television network out of Alabama.
Yeah. And the Journey Home is a program that played a big part in us becoming Catholic. Yeah. Hosted
by a man named Marcus Grodi. He basically sits down with someone that airs on Mondays. Airs on Mondays, 8 Eastern. And just folks who have... Typically, it'll be someone who is converted from a Protestant denomination. A lot of times, maybe a Protestant pastor who's converted to becoming Catholic. But not just only those, like Aaron mentioned. It could be an atheist who became Catholic. It could be someone from a different faith. It could be a revert, someone who was... was a Catholic growing up and kind of fell off, maybe converted to something else.
Or it could be two goobers that are married.
It could be two goobers that are married and who used to be Baptists and maybe who have a podcast called The Baptist Catholic Show. And those of you who are listening, I'm pointing at our sticker that says The Baptist Catholic.
Yeah, you're the biggest dork.
That's okay. That's why they're here.
Yeah.
Normal folk. That's what we are. So, we had this really cool opportunity to sit down with, it's actually Marcus's son, John Mark Grodi, and just to kind of explain what why we became Catholic and the process by which we ended up in the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
which
that
is not
sounded really clinical, like the process by which we just got to share our story.
Scalpel.
Yeah. We just got to share the story of becoming Catholic, and that was so cool.
It was so cool. So I thought maybe
it's
what
a dream
we would do.
Honestly, like some people go to Disney World.
It seriously was.
We went to
Zanesville, Ohio.
In
the middle of a cornfield. No,
we saw a gigantic basket.
It was the headquarters of what?
Longaberger Basket.
Yeah, you would know that.
And the building was just a huge basket.
It looked like a huge basket.
I was like, I used to store napkins in a basket like that.
And look, it's a whole building. Mm-hmm. So, Zanesville. They have their own little outpost there where they do the Journey Home show.
Yeah.
And literally there are like fields
Alabama.
around it.
Yeah.
And so it was not too bad of a drive for us from Kentucky up to Ohio, just outside of Columbus a little. Well, not just outside, but
like an hour.
Yeah, about an hour from Columbus, Ohio. So, I thought maybe in this episode, what we could do is we're not going to go back into the archives of our show if you want to hear more about our conversion stories or watch the new video that's out.
Yeah, we'll link that YouTube video from EWTN on the show notes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can do that, definitely. But maybe we would just give you kind of an appetizer and by telling you a few things that may lead us into the Catholic Church, not going extensively into any of that, and hoping that maybe you'll go watch the rest of that via EWTN's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, starting off, I'll let Aaron take over. Maybe give us, just kind of some flashpoints, some conversion points on the way. Where'd you start out? How did you start heading towards the Catholic Church? And maybe that we can talk about that together.
Okay. So yeah, I was raised non-denominational in an evangelical church.
Baptist without the name.
Yes.
Cool website.
Yeah.
Right.
Baptist with a cool website.
Yeah.
There's a Christian comedian that says that. And let's see. I think I committed, like I was baptized, committed my life to Christ at 4. Mm-hmm. And then had kind of a reversion kind of experience.
Rededication.
Yeah, at 17. Right before I went to college. And then I met Casey, and he took me to the dark side. No,
after that, we just levitated into the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about becoming Baptist.
That's true. The dark side.
The dark side.
We went from non-denominational.
It was just a joke. That was a joke. No. And so then through college, we went to a Baptist church.
Yeah.
And really did not even a little bit consider becoming Catholic until, let's see, after we graduated, we started talking about it more seriously. Yeah. When we moved up here after graduation and had to kind of make a decision about where we wanted to go. And it's funny for me to look back. The Eucharist is probably the big thing that drew me into the church. And I remember the first time I ever heard this thing about the Eucharist, that Catholics believe this. There's this like general studies class that you have to take at the college we went to. And I remember it's based in Christianity. What's the title of that?
Introduction to Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah. I think something like that.
Something to that effect. And I remember them bringing it up, and there was a Catholic kid in the class.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you believe they think that? Like, I came to Casey.
I can imagine that kid.
Yes. And the professor was a Baptist.
Right.
And so he, presented it very not like...
just kind of textbook.
Yeah, a textbook way. And he was like, excuse me. And that I remember that Catholic kid, like, kind of saying, that's not what we... And I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
Kid up there speaking out for his faith. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, we basically, our journeys conjoin at a certain point, but just unlike Aaron, I was not non-denominational, so I didn't have a cool website. But out in the western mountains and coal fields, as the Kentucky map says,
we learned that in 4th grade.
In 4th grade. I'll never forget it. In the hamlet of Muhlenberg County, I was raised, and we went to a Baptist church growing up. And my dad and my grandfather were both deacons in that church. And deacons for Baptists and deacons for Catholics is a little bit different. But they both served the church in kind of that leadership role. Until, I don't know, maybe I was 8 or 10, that kind of range. I think my dad, he decided to become a Baptist preacher. So he had to become ordained. Similar, I mean, not similar to the Catholic process, but kind of that idea of passing on. So there were other pastors there that would lay their hands on and pray over, and there was kind of somewhat of like a test, kind of an oral test. And so he was ordained a Baptist preacher, but that doesn't mean you automatically get a flock or something.
Right, you're not necessarily a pastor.
Right, not a pastor, you're a preacher, and so you are able to take on a church, a parish. We wouldn't call them parishes, but church. But so he's kind of like a free agent in the Baptist.
I'm just imagining right now your dad is a free agent. That's just anyway.
So that was influential on me. I can remember going with him to different churches and hearing him preach, him to do different weddings.
Man, he's an
funerals.
Awesome preacher too.
Yes, he is.
He really is.
And so, a very good speaker, very good at what he did. I can remember funerals and how he was able to, bring peace to those situations and stuff. So I really looked up to that. I really thought highly of him for that. And that had an impact on me. I got involved with a pastor who was formerly a pastor at our little Baptist church, but he kind of went off and did his own thing. He kind of wanted to break away from kind of the nomenclature of Baptist because it was kind of holding you down, right? And so, but he basically, with the same beliefs, wanted to start this other church, and it was more of a non-denominational church kind of called The Journey. And so that kind of just broke loose for me. Oh, okay, so there are other ways of being Christian that are authentic, and I don't have to necessarily wear the name badge Baptist to be like the one that's 100% correct. There are other ways. All right. And so we met at college. We were going to a Baptist church just up the road. Really, it was walking distance. So that was
the choice.
That was the choice. It was familiar. It was in walking distance. Great, we're going to do it. And I guess we started to have our own, not leading us to Catholicism, at least, in hindsight, we see that it did.
Yeah.
But at the time, I just remember thinking, man, look at all these different people from different backgrounds. They all claim Christianity. They all claim the Bible.
Yeah.
But there are so many denominations, so many beliefs.
Okay, so even the Baptist church you grew up in compared to the one we went to in college, not that it was like a liberal Baptist church necessarily at all. But it was different.
It would broach topics that I could remember thinking, this would never be talked about at my little Baptist church at home.
We went to, that was the first time we had ever gone to a Holy Thursday service.
Try to incorporate some liturgical things.
Yes.
They probably talked about Lent and the observe. I don't know. But things that we just didn't do.
Yeah,
right?
It was just different. And we really liked the church. We really liked that pastor.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
And so that was that impacts you, right? Because you're like, even within the same denomination, right? There are practices that are different. There are ways of looking at things and approaching topics that are different. So we started to see all this. I ended up becoming a professor's assistant to an Episcopalian priest. He commented to me once, I know you're going to not be Baptist much longer. You should be. He had me pegged as an Episcopalian priest because he said, you don't want to be Catholic, Roman Catholic, or just the Catholic. That's too far. An Episcopalian is perfect. You can be as Catholic as you want to be, or you can be as Protestant as you want to be. And hindsight, looking back at that, I knew something about that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Because I did not want kind of a Burger King, have it your way at BK, buffet style Christianity, where I could say, I believe that this is really Jesus is in the Eucharist, or maybe not. No, I don't believe. I think it's just a symbol. Or baptism really does this. No, it doesn't. I didn't want to be my own pope, right? Yeah. I wanted to. Surely, if Jesus Christ established a church, he gave it authority to teach the right things on really important topics. Yeah. So we had a professor. This comes back to our story together. We had a Spanish professor who was really influential.
Yeah, he was a Catholic and just lived out that faith, and
authentically
was a convert. And so that was, we can joke about it now, but we were very ignorant to what Catholics were, believed and that kind of thing. And so that was a great witness.
Yeah. Having somebody live it out in front of you unabashedly, authentically, unapologetically was influential. He didn't come up to you and go, you need to become Catholic. He would joke with us. He'd be like, you proddies, you're Protestant kids. But he would never be forceful about it. That now as a Catholic, practicing Catholic, that shows me a lot and has taught me a lot about my own witness and how, there are times where you just live it out authentically in front of people. There are times that you have to get out there and talk to people but he was just really influential in our lives. And so anyway, long story short, go to the full video for all the details, but we ended up moving to Lexington. We were kind of unsatisfied with the church that we were going to. We decided to look into Catholicism, and after starting to read, getting involved in RCIA, I always tell people, if they say my family member or my friend, they're reading about Catholicism, I said, okay, you're done. Yeah. They're going to become Catholic, or they're going to find some way to plug their ears and cover their eyes and just force themselves not to be somehow. Because once you start to see the history of the church, once you start to see the biblical connections and all the things that I don't want to say have to become a Catholic, but it's like it's almost unavoidable.
Yeah.
The early church, the church that Jesus Christ established, was the Catholic Church. And we talk about that in all our episodes, right?
Right.
But long story short, we fell in love with the Catholic Church. We're here. The reason this podcast exists is because of our love for Jesus Christ and His church and making her known. So if you want to know more about our story, there's about an hour-long program that with the link accessible in the show notes here. Also, you can find it all over our social medias as well. For the Baptist Catholic Show, and so with that,
we can't wait to see you. Hopefully, you'll join us again
on the Baptist Catholic Show.